Managing a Cash Crunch, Law Firm Growth During COVID-19, Episode 82. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Profit with Law. I am your host, Moshe Amsel, and as we continue to struggle and navigate through this pandemic, stay-at-home orders, and really either an influx of new business or a decrease in business. Most people are not just staying status quo, but I am hearing from some attorneys that they are having the busiest weeks, busiest month of their career, and I'm hearing from others that business has just suddenly dried and fizzled up. So whichever camp you're in, cash is a issue, and you want to know what to do about it. And this discussion with a whole bunch of panel experts that really know what they're talking about was just an absolute pleasure to be a part of. Conversation went all over the place about responsibility as a CEO, really planning for the worst, but at the same time remaining optimistic for the best, and just making sure that you have the funds necessary, but also not putting money into a dying business. Really a ton of great stuff that is discussed and talked about here. We also have some people who were willing to step forward and ask some questions, so some good Q&A as well. Really, I'm really excited to share this one with you. When you're listening to this, there's probably just 1 or 2 live streams remaining. If you want to catch those, go to profitwithlaw.com/COVID, profitwithlaw.com/COVID. And like we always do, we're going to link up all the resources mentioned in this episode with you in the show notes page. And you can get that by going to profitwithlaw.com/082, profitwithlaw.com/082. You can also just look in your podcast player in the description for this podcast, and we try to link it up there as well. Some of the players cut that short, but if it's there, you don't even have to go to our website. You can get it straight from there. So without wasting any more time, I'm going to queue up the replay of this live stream, Managing a Cash Crunch. Here you go. Today's topic is managing a cash crunch. And before we jump into that, I want to do a couple of housekeeping things. The first is to share with you that we do have 3 more days of live streams coming up. And those are tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. So we've been going through a series of 10 days of daily live stream shows to help you with growing, maintaining, managing your law firm during this time. So tomorrow's Getting New Clients Today. That's going to be an awesome one. It's about perspective and optimistic looking forward. How can I get new clients today in today's situation? After that, projects you've always wanted to get to on Thursday, and Friday, staying healthy and performing self-care, which is really important, especially now as we are all getting cabin fever, stuck in our homes. And not being able to go anywhere or interact with any other human beings other than what we're doing right now. So if you want to join any of those, make sure that you're registered, profitwithlaw.com/COVID. If you're here on the Zoom, obviously you've already registered. You don't have to register again, but this is going to be repurposed on Facebook. So profitwithlaw.com/COVID to sign up for the rest of the sessions. Now, we are going to just go quickly through our panelists, allow them to introduce themselves to you. For those of you who have been coming every day, you recognize some of the faces, but we've got new blood for you today. So we're just going to go through, and I'll call out your name. So Erik, you're going to be first. Boris, you'll be second in introducing yourself.
Okay, great. Thanks. Yeah, I'm Erik Pickering. I'm the president of Tracers. Tracers provides public records to law firms, investigative database. So the thing that you asked me to give, if there is an offer. So we have the thing we're offering right now while everyone's remotely working at home is basically 2 weeks. See if we can help you get your home office up and productive. You can use our tool remotely and hopefully save some money also. So I put that link into the chat, and excited to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Erik. Boris, you're up. Ken, you're next.
Hey everyone, my name is Boris Musheyev. I own a tax consulting and planning firm here in New York. We provide primarily tax consulting and planning to self-employed attorneys and law firms throughout the country. After COVID-19 hit, we actually pivoted from providing not just tax consulting, but really COVID-19 tax consulting for businesses to be able to apply for all the funding that is available with the new $2 trillion act that was passed, with what types of loans are available for you, the disaster loan, the forgivable loans, and also all the payroll tax credits and all the tax benefits that are now available with the CARES Act, just making sure that all the business owners and attorneys around the country are taking advantage of that and making sure claiming the credits and the funding and getting that extra cash for them to continue operations and not laying off employees. And I am going to be posting a link here as well. COVID-19 tax consulting, anybody that needs a free consultation to know exactly what is going on, what is available for you out there. We provide a half-hour presentation, exactly what's out there for you and what you can take advantage of once you get on a call with us. Thanks.
Awesome, Boris. Thank you. And just post that into the chat. Mimi will record it and we'll also include it in the show notes for the podcast. Ken, you're up. Allie, you're next.
Okay. Ken Hardison, president and founder of PILMA, Powerful Innovative Legal Marketing and Management Association. So our big deal is we help lawyers grow their law firms, and we have a special, no price, it's free. I've created a coronavirus survival kit for lawyers. And in that, we've been doing webinars. We've had, in fact, we got Boris coming on next Tuesday. Every Tuesday. And so we're downloading those, a lot of articles, helpful hints on how to go remote. Actually got a free test you can take in there to let your employees take as far as their wellness, how are they dealing with all this stuff, and how to manage employees remotely. Just a lot of great information. You can get that. I'll put it in there. It's PILMA, PILMA.org. And it's absolutely free, no cost. We got it for all the public. Thanks.
Awesome, Ken. Thank you. Allie, you're up. Molly, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katz. You might know me from the past as Alexis Neely, and I'm the founder of New Law Business Model, where we help lawyers to serve families and or small business owners in an entirely new way than how you've learned it in law school, so that clients are super happy to pay you $3,000 to $5,000 for an estate plan on average, sometimes less, sometimes more, and $750 to $3,000 a month, providing strategic business counsel services if you have experience as a business owner or a business lawyer. And my experience, I just want to share real briefly on Cash Crunch is after building $2 million businesses, I experienced bankruptcy due to my inability to handle a cash crunch, not knowing how to handle it. And I freaked out and collapsed under the weight of it. The beauty of that, this is almost 10 years ago now, is that I learned how to handle cash crunch. And today I'm able to run a $5 million company because I know how to handle cash crunch. And so we're all in the same boat right now with probably facing the biggest cash crunch of our lives in some ways. And I'm going to give you my tools. I am going to be leaving the call temporarily to go work with my team, and then I'll come back, but I'll give you the tools that I developed as a result of that experience so you can learn from my mistakes and handle your cash crunch in the right way, both mentally, because so much of it depends on how you handle it mentally, and then also with the actions that you can take to make sure that you're accessing all the financial resources you need to get through the cash crunch and become highly profitable so you can stay in service during this time.
Thank you, Allie, and I'm so happy that you're here. And also, Allie is the owner of New Law Business Model, which is one of the sponsors of these live streams. I'm going to share some more about that in just a few moments, but I just want to acknowledge you publicly here for that investment in everybody that's been getting a ton of value from all of these live streams. So thank you for that. Molly, you're up, and Tom, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Molly McGrath, and I am founder of Hiring and Empowering Solutions. And for the past 22 years, I've coached over 15,000 law firms in regards to everything people, process, profit, and marketing. And we started our business, ironically, in 2008, and not really fully aware of what was going on. And a lot of what we teach our law firm employees as well as attorneys in regards to how to stay in your own lane, keep your head down, and really focus and find your circle of focus, especially in everything calendar, because so go your calendar, so go your cash flow. And so what I bring to the table is I've been blogging since 2008, and I have a podcast, Hiring and Empowering Solutions, and everything in regards to how to empower your employees to step up and lead. We've also founded the Team Empowerment Academy, which is a CEO in training program for everyone from your receptionist to your associate attorneys. I'm also a 3-time Amazon bestseller, published author in regards to how to run a profitable law firm.
Awesome, Molly. Thank you. And we're very happy to have you here as well. Tom, you're up. And Mike, you're the next one after Tom.
Hey guys, Tom Sylvester here, and I am a author and podcaster of the podcast and book Lifestyle Builders. So basically, this is our process for being able to design your business to support your lifestyle. And it's now more important than ever to make sure that we have our personal lifestyle and plan set up and have the business structured in a way to support that. Just like Molly, I actually started in business in 2007, 2008. I realized that the market was shifting, and I actually got invested into real estate when everything was going down. So I've been through this, and over the last several years, I've started multiple businesses and have coached hundreds, if not thousands of entrepreneurs through how to set up systems and a team to scale their business. And most recently, over the last couple of weeks, I've talked with hundreds of entrepreneurs basically on how to navigate this through various industries. And I'm really excited to be here with you guys and to share some of the strategies for managing cash to not only survive this, but ultimately come out thriving.
Awesome, Tom. Thank you. Mike, you're up.
Hey guys, I'm Mike Whelan. I wrote a book called Lawyer Forward, Finding Your Place in the Future of Law. I used to have my own law firm and managed it through the Texas wildfires, which took our house, and Hurricane Harvey on the Texas coast, which took our practice. So I have some experience dealing with disasters. And I also hosted a conference called Lawyer Forward in Austin for 5 years. We're going virtual with it this year. And the purpose is to get past this moment of triage. We've talked a lot about, how to get online, our traditional practices online, but I want to move to conversations about business models and productizing and pricing. And so the link to that is lawyerforward.com/virtual. It's a pay what you can model. Just join us, contribute if you want, but we definitely want your opinions and thoughts there. So.
Awesome, Mike. Make sure to put the link to that in the chat so people can register for that event. And I'm Moshe Amsel, host of the Profit with Law podcast. If you're not a podcast listener, please check the podcast out. You may be surprised to find that you really like it. And then you can subscribe and listen to the show regularly. We also are the Law Firm Growth Summit brand. We bring virtual summits to you, education for your law firm. And finally, I am a coach and consultant for law firms on the growth of their practice. If you want to know more about that, you definitely can just reach out. Let me know. We offer a free coaching session for you if you haven't already redeemed one before. Mimi will drop the link to that into the notes, and that is profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. So one housekeeping thing, at the bottom of the Zoom screen, there's a bar and there's a button there, Q&A. That is the appropriate place to drop a question that you have for the panelists. We would love some interaction from the attendees. So if you have a burning question of something immediate for you that's related to your cash flow, whether it's oh my gosh, I have so much business, I don't know what to do with it, or help, I need to lay off my staff and I'm trying to figure out how to survive this because my business is completely shut down. Whatever your questions are, post in the Q&A, and just put a note in there whether you would like to be brought on live, because if you do, we definitely can have a two-way conversation. We can ask you more questions. So that's a really good way to interact with a bunch of professionals who really have a lot of experience in this arena. So I'm looking forward to getting into the actual content, and we're going to do that in just a moment. But these live streams are brought to you by a group of sponsors. So there's 4 sponsors for this event that have made this event possible. And I want to run through them real quickly and just share some awesome goodness that they are offering to you today. And then we'll get right to it. So the first one is GNGF. GNGF, Mark Homer wrote this book, and it's online law practice strategies. And it's all about how to turn clicks into clients. And you can get that physical book for free. They're going to literally mail it out to you, no charge, no cost for shipping. You simply just need to go to gngf.com/free-book, gngf.com/free-book. The link will be in the chat as well. And all you got to do is put in your information, and they will send that book out to you. We're also sponsored by Smith AI. Smith AI is your go-to virtual reception service, and they are your front line of defense, both during a crisis as well as during normal times. Even if you have a receptionist, there's always times your receptionist is on the phone and can't pick up the next call that's coming in. Calls go to voicemail. That's not the best way to capture leads if somebody is calling you for the first time. So you definitely want your phone being answered by a live person at all times, a professional person. All their people are in the US, natively English speaking, great people to have your phone answered by, but they do so much more than answering the phone. They'll do outbound calling for you. They'll install a chatbot on your website to allow people to just chat with you directly, and they'll monitor that chat. They'll even work within your practice management software. So they'll enter notes into your software, so you're not trying to duplicate things that they're already doing for you. It's an awesome service, and they have a special for you today. So normally when you sign up for them, free 20-call trial, free spam blocking, free CRM integration. But today, if you sign up with the code Smith COVID-19, and that'll be in the chat, you get the first month of the starter plan free, another 20 free calls, plus they're going to do the chatbot setup for you, an installation for free. All of that is a $290 value. You're going to get extra on top of what they normally would offer when you come to them as a new client. Smith COVID-19, use that code, take advantage of that. It's essentially getting a 2-month free trial of their service, and you can't go wrong. Like, if you don't like it, you just cancel it. It didn't cost you anything. So definitely recommend trying that out. Ali Katz, you saw her earlier, New Law Business Model. New Law Business Model is a unique operation where they teach you how to get $3,000 to $5,000 per estate plan, $700 to $3,000 recurring monthly revenue from business clients through your legal services. And if those numbers sound like something that would be really nice to have, then you definitely want to join their free Facebook group. And that is the Lifestyle Lawyers Club Facebook group. So join the Lifestyle Lawyers Facebook group. When you join, let them know you came through the Law Firm Growth Summit COVID live stream series, and they're going to send a free guide and a free video on how to run your practice virtually. But the information that you get in that free Facebook group is going to propel your business forward. And if you take that journey with New Law Business Model, they can help you with an estate planning and business legal practice and getting those kinds of numbers. So we're going to jump right into the topic at hand today. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about myself. So Profit with Law, we have a brand new Law Firm Growth Incubator membership product. It is going to be $150 a month. It is currently $27 a month. There are 9 spots available at the $27 price before the price goes up. If you want weekly help, if you're in the 0 to 250K revenue range and you want weekly help on your marketing, your technology, and your practice management, then you want to go in there. I've partnered with Mark Homer from GNGF, Melanie Leonard from Streamline Legal, and the 3 of us are coming to you every week, giving you real knowledge and inspiration and guidance on how to wear all these multiple hats as the CEO of your law firm. And at $27 a month, there's no way that you're going to get a better deal or not get the value for that investment. So if you haven't signed up yet, go to profitwithlaw.com/incubator, profitwithlaw.com/incubator. Sign up, $27 a month for the life of your membership. So it will never go up for you as a brand new member in that membership. So managing a cash crunch. Right now, we're in a really tough time. The economy has slowed to a screeching halt. Some people are able to work remotely, others are not. This could be adversely affecting your business. It can also be a good problem to have. There are a number of lawyers that I've spoken to who are having the busiest weeks, the busiest month of their career. I've spoken to a family law attorney who their phone is ringing off the hook with people who are having custody issues. Their children are stuck in one home. They're supposed to be sharing time with them. I've had a conversation with a bankruptcy attorney whose phone is ringing off the hook with people who are not able to meet their debt obligations. I've had a conversation with somebody who's in immigration, where all the immigration lawyers are hiding at home and nobody is willing to go into these camps where people are being held to deal with them and represent them, which creates all of these opportunities for people where now you have so much business. What do you do with it? So the cash crunch could be on both sides of it. It could be a good problem. It could be a bad problem. And I think that we're going to focus primarily on the bad problem, but I don't want to avoid the possibility that this is a good problem too, because we have to figure out how to navigate that. So what I'd like to do is just go through each of the panelists and get their top tip for you as a business owner on what to do when there's a sudden monkey wrench thrown into your plans and things just change. And you need to address that change. You need to act quickly and rapidly. And one of your things that you have going for you as a small firm is that you can change on a dime. You don't have to go to the board and have a big discussion. You don't have to have a meeting of the partners. You don't have to communicate with hundreds of staff members. You can figure out what you need to do and you can act on it right away. So use your strength to listen to the advice that they're giving you and choose which ones make sense for you and start to implement that immediately. One thing I want to share before I go to the panelists is that last night I did a 1-hour Facebook Live stream session that was all about this new $2.2 trillion act. And it's more than SBA loans, right? There's a lot of nuggets in there that can help you personally, that can help your law firm. And I went through a whole bunch of those things in that live stream. So Mimi's going to put a link into the chat. If you didn't attend it, if you didn't watch it, definitely grab that link, save it locally on your computer or on your phone, and go and watch that when we're done, because it's going to be immense value for you. It also was repurposed into a podcast episode released this morning. So you can also go to the Profit with Law podcast and watch it there. So I'm going to go over to our panelists, and I'm going to start with Tom. And then we'll go to Mike, and we'll work our way around the room. And I just want your top tip that you'd like to share with business owners today when it comes to this situation with cash flow.
Yeah, so most people's immediate reaction is to change, right? And so the first thing we want to do before we make any changes is just to evaluate where we're at today. So one of my favorite tools that I always go back to is a SWOT analysis. And if you guys haven't used this before, it's basically looking at your business and saying, okay, what strengths do we have, as well as what weaknesses do we have? And then especially as things are changing, we want to look at what opportunities now exist, because as more challenges come up, what we can do is work to solve those challenges, as well as look at what threats exist that we want to put a mitigation plan in place for. So before you change anything, best thing to do is figure out where you're at today, and that'll give you some good guidance for then what to do next.
My tip is kind of a weird one, as usual from me, and it is play more board games. The reason is that doing that has really helped me detach my sense of worth from my money. That we're all just playing a game. It's really hard when these things happen, when these things are out of control. It's hard not to identify your own personal worth with how much money you're making or how many new clients you have. And a lot of that is just the law firm business model that we use. So weird tip, learn how to emotionally detach yourself a little bit. Life's just a board game. You got to find a way to detach yourself some.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom and Mike. We're going to go to Molly and then Ken.
So my tip is first and foremost to create a huddle with your team and whiteboard exactly what it is that you need right now. I'm amazed at how many firms I'm speaking with right now. To Moshe's point, their phones are ringing off the hook, which is fantastic. And they still have client work. It's just a mindset shift that because you're not in the office, you feel like everything is doom and gloom. And what's really the truth, when you anchor to your calendar and to your opportunities and your PNCs, you'll see that there's a tremendous amount of opportunities sit in front of you. So number one, I'd say get to the whiteboard and be really clear on what it is that you need right now, and then enroll your team in it. Right now, we're teaching a 5-day class on in legal marketing moves on how to get your client service coordinators on a Client Connect campaign. We have many firms that are successfully doing that. I would not panic and go to a place of cutting all of your expenses, et cetera. Right now, there's no greater opportunity for client acquisition, and just really getting clear right now, it's serving the clients that you currently have that you owe work to. Number two, connecting with the clients that are in your potential pipeline that you have connected with but maybe haven't moved forward, and see how you can support them. And then also keep it moving with your marketing initiatives, because right now this time is about connection and client acquisition, and just getting really in touch with people and being of value and service to them, and maybe shift that in regards to panic about staring at your P&L and your QuickBooks.
Awesome, Molly. Ken, you're up.
So I think the big deal is they've all hit on it around it, but the deal is about don't do a knee-jerk reaction. Sit back and take a deep breath. And you as the leader of your firm, whether you be a solo or whether you have 20 or 30 people in your firm, you got to rise to the occasion and keep everybody calmness, because they're going to follow your lead. And I think the big deal is what I'm telling a lot of our clients is that want to look at all your marketing, because I do see this as opportunity, but I think that now's the time to do some renegotiation. Like if you're doing radio or you're doing TV or you got some other vendors, now is a great time to do some renegotiation, because at least for the next 90 days. And what we're seeing is a lot of them are working with them. So just don't go in and wholesale cut. And I always like to go through everything line item. Does this produce income? If this produced income, why would I want to cut it, right? There might be some things you do need to cut, but I think the big deal is like Molly was saying, don't panic. Take a deep breath. And I like what you said, Molly, about the connection. I'm advising a lot of our lawyers to like take some of their marketing money, like PPC right now, for some practices are not doing as well, and put it in social media, Facebook, and do some PSAs. And like with Pilma, we've cut off all promotions. We're not promoting anything. What we're doing now is giving. And I think you as lawyers need to be pushing that out, because, we don't have the best reputation in the world to start with. And especially injury lawyers, which I was for years. So the deal is you want to give to the public, and, just be there for them. Like she said, connect. I thought that was very good, Molly.
Awesome, Ken. Thank you. So we're going to go to Erik and then Boris.
Okay, great. Yeah, I would say my tip is it's more targeted towards the surviving part. I like the thrive and survive. That's how we're thinking about it at Tracers also. But when I think cash crunch, I think of the surviving part, and I think it builds on what everyone else has been saying, in that my tip is to have a really solid understanding and plan of where you are with your cash, because maybe it's like you said, maybe there's growth going on, so it's really not a concern. But from a surviving perspective, if you get your arms around what is my burn rate, which is, so what exactly is my revenue still, what are my costs, how much cash do I have, and just have a number. Okay, well, that means it's 12 months or 12 days. But I really liked Allie's comment about so much of this is emotional, like it's scary. These are unprecedented times, and there's so much uncertainty that I find myself always going back to my plan of, okay, here's where I sit. And then you can make your choices and understand your risk, how risky you need to be because of where you are on that. But really going through and doing that analysis and having a solid understanding is I think, a key part.
Love that, Erik. All right, Boris, you're up. Boris, you're muted. Give me 1 second. I am.
Yep, I thought I was kind of.
Go ahead, start again.
We're good. Okay, awesome. So I was saying it's kind of hard to answer that question, especially now, right? Which is one thing, but I think everybody said kind of hit it right on the nail. But one thing I want to, unfortunately, just want to make a point on, right? Unfortunately, when every business owner, I can at least speak for myself, when we have that cash crunch, we kind of let that moment get to us. And my tip for you is that, I think somebody said, I think Molly said, don't let the emotions get in, because, when that emotion gets in, it kind of reflects on your employees, or your employees see it in you. And right now, during this COVID-19 crisis, where the cash is the major issue, you want to show your employees that you're there for them, right? So right now is the time to show your employees, hey, I'm going to take care of you. There's everything in my power that I can do to turn things around for this business, to get it back on track with everything that's going on right now. We're during the government shutdown. Or I will try to get the funds that are available by the government, try to keep the operations going, keeping you on payroll, and kind of figuring out what's going on with the cash. And like everybody else here said, what are the next steps in terms of client acquisition and building that relationship and renegotiating all that stuff. But first steps first is that don't let it get to you emotionally, and so that you can be a rock for your employees, so to speak, because they do rely on you.
Awesome, Boris. Thank you. So my tip was already covered by let's see, Erik and Boris and what Ken and Molly said, even what Tom said. But what I really think is the most important thing is to get deeply familiar with your numbers. And it's not just how much cash do I have in the bank, how much runway do I have, but if you were going to consider borrowing money to survive, would you borrow money to plug a hole? I'm going to use an analogy, right? Plug a hole in a sinking ship, or would you use your money to fix something that really isn't broken? And that's what I really think that you need to assess in this process. In other words, if I'm fighting to keep employees on staff, they better be the employees I want to keep. If I'm fighting to keep the rent going on my office, it better be for an office that's worth keeping. So this is a good time to start assessing my entire business to make sure that I'm really happy with the way it's all firing. Everything's firing on all cylinders. If everything looks good and this is a temporary problem, then I need to find a temporary solution to figure out how much cash do I need and how do I come up with that. And there's a lot of good options available to you today. Between going to a bank for a loan, getting some new credit cards with 0% interest on it, going to the government for SBA loans, there's disaster loans, there's the new payroll protection program loan. There's a lot of options on the table, and you obviously need to research what those options are. But I would only do that to save something worth saving. So if you have employees that you're not happy with, this might be the right time to say goodbye to them. And you'll have a great applicant pool available to you when things turn around. There's a lot of people losing their jobs. You might end up with a far better team in the process. Maybe working virtually for a couple of weeks has opened your eyes to the fact that an office might not be so necessary. So maybe you don't need to try to bend over backwards to figure out how to come up with the rent to pay for your office. Maybe it's time to negotiate an exit from your lease or negotiate a smaller space, things like that. So that's what I would do is I would look at the big picture of your business and what are the things that I want to do or don't want to do, and then figure out, okay, what am I going to do as far as a cash solution for this? Now, I just want to remind everybody, Q&A. If you have any questions, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. This live stream is so much better when we have audience interaction and audience participation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Melissa Pierce on. So Melissa has been actually very active in our live streams and has been on a few times before. So I'm really happy to highlight her again. But she has a great question, which Boris kind of touched on just now, but I'm going to bring you on now, Melissa. It's just going to take me a moment to give you ability to go on video. And as she's coming on, she's got a question about, hey, my business has been okay. I've actually had this influx of business, but now things are slowing down and I'm starting to get nervous. So how do I deal with that? So Melissa, you should be able to unmute yourself and open your video up and go ahead with your question.
All right, so I've actually come out of a 2-year cash crunch. Went through a lot of what you guys were talking about, the emotions, and learned the hard way when the employees see that reflected, how it affects everyone. So I've gone from having a team of 6 to just myself. But my big question is, with everything happening and the phone slowing down, because people have their own misconceptions about what to do with lawyers right now, how do I prevent myself from getting into that mindset panic over the cash crunch? Because right now I've got, probably about 15 days of cash in the bank. And I'm working with a client on getting a large part of her debt paid off, probably within the next 2 weeks. But how do I keep myself from going down that spiral again?
I'd love to answer that.
Yeah, so just real quick for the panelists who are new. So when I bring in somebody for a Q&A, it's kind of an open floor. I'm not going to go one by one through you. Just unmute yourself if you want to speak. And if 2 of you do it at the same time, you'll just navigate that. I trust that you'll figure it out. Go ahead, Molly.
Okay, great. I love your question, Melissa. Number one, I'd say to shift your focus a little bit off of day 16 of when you're out of cash. And as Tony Robbins always trains, emotions in motion. The best way is to keep an inspired action and doing what you can to either, whether it's yourself or you have somebody else on your team or somebody in your family that is acceptable to make phone calls, doing a client connect campaign, number one. Number two, I think Ken had said that in regards to shifting your focus in regards to social media and digital marketing, putting a tremendous amount of value add content. I think you were on Friday when we talked about working from home and creating those videos and the blogs and the things of the nature. As much as you can stay in action to move the needle even 1% in providing consistent value and value bombs that you could sprinkle all over your email without being too aggressive and inboxing them every hour, but everything that you can do for finding new connections, and in addition to using the phone as much as possible coupled with digital. So many people are sitting at home right now, and my clients that are doing client connect campaigns and calls, they are picking up the phone. And yesterday I had a client that just figure out what number you need, what your average case value is, you'll be surprised if you just chunk it down. It might be one client that you need that'll make a difference of moving it the next 15 days. Be really clear and know your numbers of what you need. And I had a client yesterday, by the end of the day, their goal was $2,500 and they brought in $3,000 just by using the phone. I don't mean to say this in a place of being an opportunist, but this is a strategy that hopefully people will systematize in their business going forward, not just in a place of crisis, but the phone will make you rich. And right now is your greatest opportunity from a place of connection. Now, obviously your goal is to create value and to support and help and calm down your clients. But at the end of the day, you staying in action will pay off over and over again. And that's the only way to manage your emotions, number one. Number two, making you feel better every time. As people in personal service industry, when you connect with another human being and you make impact and you make a difference for them, it fills your gas tank up incredibly. And it gives you fuel to do the next task, to take the next action, instead of just sitting in a place of wonder and worry.
I have a question. Melissa, what kind of practice do you have? What kind of law do you practice?
So I do divorce and post-judgment work, as well as estate planning for firearm owners.
Okay.
I was curious for you guys, like, to pivot off of Melissa's question. When, a lot of the times when we talk about business planning, it's assuming sort of a static environment. And so we can look out a year and say what our priorities are, and we're going to work towards those. In this, like, we don't know if this is going to last 3 weeks or 6 months. It sort of depends on what state you're from and what governor you have, it seems. And this theoretically, some people are talking about a depression. You could be in a totally different financial position a year from now. How are you guys figuring out how to kind of chunk that planning, or are you just doing the next 2 weeks, or are you saying, I'm going to do contingent plans?
This Erik, I'll jump in if
Go for it.
So I think that's a great question of this, this unknown and how do you deal with it. The way I think about it is, like you said, normal times, the uncertainty is allows you to say focus 80% of your planning on the long term. Like you don't want to, make choices on short term. You want to build for your strategy long term. And I think that has largely inverted, because you're going to know so much more in 4 weeks that you sort of do have to make more of a short term plan. But simultaneously, my approach is, I think you have to plan for the worst case. And I think whether it's, like you said, whether it's a month or 12 months, depends on who you ask. But I view it as, this will go on for 12 months, and I'm making choices that I can easily reverse. So those are the best kind of ones you can make. There's obviously some hard ones that you have to make that aren't reversible, but I think you put a plan in place for, this is going to be a long haul, and then you can pivot quickly off of that as more information comes in.
Yeah, I think a couple things. Boris was talking about, there's this is easy money to get right now on this paycheck deal. And I'm telling all my clients, whether you think you need it or not, go get it. Because there's 2 different loans, and Boris can talk a lot about that. But what I'm seeing and hearing is, it's a no-brainer to go for the paycheck loan, because a lot of it's going to be forgiven. It'll probably end up a grant. Now, in between that time and when you can get the loan process, which is another issue, is I always think, when you're busy, you ain't got time to worry about shit. And I think, and maybe they talked about it last week, I won't hear, but I would create a guide for parents who are having custody issues. Maybe call it how to deal with custody issues during the coronavirus lockdown. And I would pump it out on social media, and I might even do some Facebook ads. It depends on your cash flow, but at least go do a Facebook Live, do it on your website. You do it on your personal Facebook and get people to share it. That's doing something really good, and that could get you some business. That's why I asked you what kind of practice I wanted to think about what I would do. I think it's a little bit more tricky with estate planning, although you could.
It's not.
Okay,
it's
well,
not.
okay. Well, that's your expertise. But what I will say is, there's a lot of things that you could probably try to do to get, these power of attorneys and healthcare power of attorneys and things like that people are going to need with this coronavirus. And maybe you could do something like, whether you either sell it or you give it away free. But the big deal is, keep yourself busy and keep your name out there in front of everybody, and you're going to get people calling you, I think. And Allie probably knows a lot better avenues than I do on estate planning, because I never did estate planning.
Yeah. Melissa, were you on our webinar last Friday for the personal resource map?
I was, and on the, I would know I was on the Working with Home, and I've actually put that out on my business Facebook now, daily tips on what you can do from working with home. And I'm running a women's gospel study group, and some of the moms were complaining, so I shared that with them, as well as to go check out the website, because I'm doing it daily at like 2:15. Here's a tip.
Awesome.
On how to work from home.
Great. Yeah. So hi everybody. I'm back. I'm Allie Katz. I just left for a few minutes to go work with my team. We have our weekly all team meeting at the same time. And I heard a couple of questions, so I'm going to answer what I heard. First of all, I do think we are in for a marathon. from what I'm seeing and my intuition, which has been right a lot of times, I think that we need to plan to be at home at least through June and July. And that we're not going to return to the same way. It is not going to be business as usual again. But that this is a huge opportunity for everybody to make massive shifts. And then for those of us that have not made massive identity shifts in our lives, that's the first thing, is to recognize that you are in process of a massive identity shift. I've shifted my identity a few times with my name changes and my way of being changes. So I'm used to doing this in my system. And it's always been each step, each time I did it, it was incredibly confusing. And I didn't always know what was going on as it was happening. And so I want to encourage you that if you're in this process and you don't really know what's going on and it feels confusing, what I've heard so far, everybody else say is the right thing, stay in service. Throughout all of my identity shifts, I stayed in service, and that served me repeatedly. I just kept asking, how can I serve? How can I serve? Even though I don't actually know what's going on in my own self sometimes, how can I serve others? And that kept me moving forward. And so that is the right question. For those of you that are wondering, are people going to think about death right now? Of course they are. Everybody's thinking about death. It's on all of our minds more than it ever has been. And some people out there are saying, no, you can't talk about that because it's too confronting. And what I just want you to know from a point of reference is last Friday, we put together a webinar for the public. It's called personalresourcemap.com. We had over 1,200 people registered in less than 1 week with no ads whatsoever. 500 of those people were registered by the lawyers we train, who sent people from their community. Lawyers who just posted about it with people they knew. One lawyer registered 60 people herself. And then the other 700 plus came from my influencer network, with really just 2 influencers sharing it. So people do want to think about death. They do want to know the legal planning steps that they can take. I did not sell anything on that call. I helped people know what they could do themselves to get their legal planning in place. I created a tool that they could use to create the most important thing that they could take control of right now, which is an inventory of their assets, where they are, how their family could access it. Everybody needs that. We gave that away for free. And then I told them if they need to work with a lawyer, to go work with one of our personal family lawyers who are giving away $1,000 of legal services. And I made that call to action for them. You can see what that looks like if you go to personalresourcemap.com, opt in yourself, do it for your family, see what that webinar looked like. So that if you want to model it, you can't use my terminology, but you can model the structure for sure. And of course, if you want our support to be sharing this in your community so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, we'd love to help you do that. Let me switch to the topic of cash crunch, because that's what the topic is on. After building $2 million businesses in 2003 through 2008, first my law practice, building it into $1 million law practice because I got really good at sales and marketing. And then building a training company for lawyers and going on TV and being this family, financial, and legal expert and all of these things. I collapsed under the weight of it and filed bankruptcy because I did not know how to manage cash crunch. At any stage of business that you're in, you're going to have cash crunch. That is the reality of business. Even who's our guy out there who makes Tesla? Elon Musk. Elon Musk faces cash crunch, right? He took all of his proceeds from PayPal and put it in his next thing, and he had nothing. And so if he faces cash crunch and I face cash crunch and everybody here faces cash crunch, of course you're going to face cash crunch too. It's part of being a business owner, and it's how you deal with that cash crunch that determines whether or not you have success. And whether we are all at home or in the offices, the most important thing that I learned through that process is that when you have clear goals about how many clients you need And at what average fee? Exactly as I heard Molly saying when I came on, she talked to her client. She helped him set a goal of $2,500. He did $3,000. That's how it works. You set those clear goals. See, I didn't have clear goals when I was building my $1 million practice. It was, I want $1 million practice. Great, I got that. But did I know how to deal with how much should I be paying myself? How much should I be paying my team? How much should I be putting into marketing? I didn't know any of that. So I just looked at my bank account to see if I had money, and I spent it if I did. It's terrifying. So today, one of the things that I have created for you is something I call the money map for lawyers. This came from a program that I created and sell all day long for the non-lawyer community for more than $2,000. But I have a free version that I made for you. It's at moneymapforlawyers.com, moneymapforlawyers.com. And you can use this no matter what practice area you are in to get clear on your personal, financial, and time goals. Absolutely critical. How much money do I need to make? How much time do I have to make it? And then you can establish your fees based on how much money you need to make and how much time you need to make it, and know exactly how many clients you need to be serving each month and how many you can be serving. So when lawyers come in to work with us, the first thing we help them figure out is, what is your capacity? Some lawyers, you might only have the capacity to serve 4 clients. Well, then you better be getting $3,000 to $5,000 for each one of those clients, or you're not going to be able to stay in business. You won't make it through the cash crunch, right? So you need to know those numbers, and I make it as simple for you as I can in Money Map for Lawyers, because I did not understand the numbers, and that's what caused me to go into bankruptcy. Okay. Today, I run a $5 million company. We help thousands of lawyers to get clear on exactly how much they need to make. What do they need to do in order to make that? In our case, serving families and small business owners with estate planning and business practice. Okay, but this Money Map for Lawyers, all of you can use, and you've got all of the support resources here that Moshe's turning you on to once you know what your goals are, you'll know which of the support resources are right for you, including the CARES Act, and including, you know, should it be payroll protection loan? Should it be EIDL? You've got to know your numbers. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
Awesome, Allie. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was great. Anybody else want to jump in? Tom, you got something you want to add?
Oh. Go for it, Tom.
I was gonna say, just pulling together a couple things that have been said. One, you want to plan out scenarios, and I think Erik said it. Plan out the worst case scenario, and then building out what Molly and Allie said. Figure out what the numbers are and reverse engineer that. So once you know what you're targeting to make, work that back. What's your average, sale price, and then work backwards from there. So how many new cases or new clients do you need? Work backwards from there. On average, if you talk to 10 people, how many are going to become a client? Once you know that conversion rate, now you know how many leads you probably have to talk to. So it really comes down to simple numbers. But once you have that clarity, short term, it's the outreach that I think Molly talked about. Talk to existing clients, past clients, anybody that's warm to you. One, to connect and understand how they're doing, and you're going to find opportunity. Short term, how you manage cash crunch is proactive outreach. Then longer term, and part of what we all want to be thinking about, is how do you position yourself as an expert and really become the go-to? Because what people are looking for now is certainty and somebody to guide, right? So what we can all be doing is then creating content, sharing that out. It may not immediately lead to cash, but when you've covered the short-term cash with proactive outreach, then going to more of an outbound strategy or inbound strategy of where you're putting content out and letting people come to you is a way to then set yourself up to be able to thrive coming out of this. So lots of good stuff. Just want to pull it together into a couple simple action steps.
Awesome, Tom. Boris, I think you were trying to add something as well.
Yes. Hi. So Melissa, just, everybody made an excellent point in terms of short-term goal, and then I think Michael said, what about a long-term goal, right? And then Erik made some good points here. So I'll tell you what has helped me. About 3 weeks ago, I was probably like a lot of people on the sidelines, right? Thinking, well, this is just going to pass. A couple of weeks, this is going to pass, and we should be good with our cash for the next 2-3 months. Then kind of hit me, like as the government started shutting down, just like in your point, right? You said, I only probably have cash for another 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. That's what you said? To kind of keep going. So I was thinking, well, what hit me the most was like, well, my employees, if we start downsizing and we're doing a lot of tax consulting work and helping people pay less in taxes by using tax strategies, and we have ongoing services with clients, but I feel like those clients will start pulling out because there's no cash coming into these law firms, right? At least some, there's still cash coming in, but maybe not at the amount that they generally do. And we're probably not going to have new tax consulting services. So, we have did in our firm, we kind of pivoted the business, right? And I think we're fortunate enough to do it in our firm because we have that. And I think attorneys, for the most part, are also fortunate enough to be attorneys and be able to pivot your service for at least meanwhile to kind of something else, right? So we pivoted from doing tax consulting to COVID-19 consulting and helping clients take advantage of everything that's going on there with the new tax law and all these credits. And we now continue staying in business and probably signing up more clients than we ever did, right? So it's like, I think Ali said that the shift in the mindset. Let's shift the mindset. You have 15 days worth of cash left over. Maybe you can do some outreach, collect some payments, do some receivables, upsell some existing clients. I don't know what it is that, what type of clients specifically you have, but see if you can pivot the business and think about the long term also, because there's a cash there for you. You need that cash. See if by pivoting the business, providing new service in a new legal area could be something that is for you. So I was talking to a client of mine 2 days ago who's an attorney. He's our client. He does DUI, He's like, and nobody's driving, so nobody's getting into accidents. So my business is down. So, and then he's like, well, I'm talking to a friend of mine and we're kind of going to be focusing on domestic violence right now. People are sitting home and unfortunately, maybe they don't get along, right? So they're signing up clients on that and kind of keeping cash going and keeping cases going, even though in some places courts are closed. I know in New York, even electronic filing is closed, right? But depending on your state and what is it that you can do, see if you can pivot that and help you in the long term as well. And if you have employees or there's cash crunch that you're experiencing due to COVID-19, I definitely urge you to turn to the CARES Act and see what is it that they're offering for business owners. I know it's not something they'll give you in the next 2 weeks, but it's the cash that could inflow, whether through loans or credits or through forgiveness, in the next 30 to 60 days.
Awesome, Boris. Thank you. So the only thing I want to add to what was already said is I agree with Erik. Okay, you have to be realistic with your numbers and you have to think about the worst case scenario, but that is not from an emotional perspective. It's from a, how do I prepare myself for the worst, right? And with that, you need to, right now, when you have cash in the bank and you are in a moment of strength, is the best time to apply for any sort of credit. So you should be taking this moment of strength to be reaching out to your financial institution, to be researching some options that you might have, to have credit facilities in place that you might be able to tap if necessary in that worst case scenario. That's deal with the worst case scenario, plan for it, and actually take action on it. But as far as your focus, the people who are able to remain optimistic the longest are the ones who are going to win. If you focus on optimism, if you focus on what is possible, that is going to remove the negative thought process and negative spiral that can happen. So if you allow yourself to start thinking negatively and start worrying about what ifs and play those out, you'll end up in that scenario all day long. And there is no way you can think about what's possible when you're in that mindset. So you have to train yourself to be the one who's going to stay in this race the longest, as far as how can I take advantage of this situation right now. If this thing goes on for 12 months, there's a lot of people who are going to run out of money. You're not going to be the only one. But at the same time, there's always somebody who still has money, who is going to need something. And your job is to continue to figure out what is the next thing that people are going to need. And we spoke about, people spoke about, yes, taking action now, live streams, social media. Those are tactics. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about getting new clients. Today, I'm sure we're going to talk a bunch about that. I don't want to focus on the specifics, but I do want to say that at any point in time, no matter where the economy is, there's always going to be opportunity for somebody. You get to choose whether that somebody is you. So if you focus on that and just continue to think from an optimistic mindset, there's business out there. I just need to figure out how to tap it. If you continue to work that way, you'll stay out of that negative mindset. You'll continue to move forward, but don't ignore the possibilities. Make sure that you have a plan, that you have cash reserves, that you're personally taking care of. Your survival is going to continue. And honestly, if it goes as long as 12 months, there's going to be 4 or 5 more acts that President Trump's going to have to go through in order to keep everybody alive. So we're in a country, we're not in this alone, but at the same time, we're each in charge of how we deal with it. And I think that that's where your power lies. Melissa, did we answer your question? Do you have any follow-up questions? Because I do have a question in the wing I want to bring on.
No, it really answers it. And it's a lot of great tips, because even clients are getting into this cash crunch mindset without work. So I really like these tips because it's stuff I can add value to the clients and what they can do. Thank you.
Awesome. Perfect. So I'm going to bring Margaret on. She's an attorney out in the Bahamas, and she has a great question that I want to address, and I would love for our panelists to do that. If any of you were planning to go at the top of the hour, you can just leave. Don't worry about it. We're going to answer her question. But before I do that, I want to take a moment to acknowledge our sponsors one more time. Smith AI, your virtual reception service. They have a code, Smith COVID-19. Sign up with that, and you get up to $290 of free add-on services with it. It essentially is giving you their services for 2 months to try, see if you like it. And if you don't, just cancel. There's no contract. It's a great opportunity for you to just add a solution to the front end. That's one less thing that you have to worry about in your law practice. Mark Homer from GNGF has given away a free book, and that's his book on online law practice strategies, how to turn clicks into clients. This book right here. And you can get that absolutely free shipped to you. Just go to gngf.com/free-book, and he'll ship that out to you. Allie Katz is here with us, New Law Business Model. She's posted the link to the group. Mimi will post it as well. They have the Lifestyle Lawyers Club. And if you join that group, you're going to get a ton of value, learn how to get $3,000 to $5,000 per estate plan. And it's been obvious from her conversations on this call that estate planning is on people's minds. As much as you think that, oh my goodness, people are laid off, they don't have money, they're not going to, guess what? There are people who have money and they need to protect it. There are people who have children and they want to make sure that their children will be taken care of if they get consumed by this thing. So everybody is going to put their family first, and estate planning is definitely a place where there's going to be business. There's opportunity there. So you want to learn how to charge properly for that. Join Lifestyle Lawyers Club, the Facebook group for that. Let them know you came through the Law Firm Growth Summit, and they will, through the COVID live stream series that we're doing, and they will send you a free video and guide on working and serving virtually. Finally, we have at Profit with Law a brand new incubator. It's a membership where every week we are giving you a support call. We cover marketing, tech, and the business finances, team management for your firm. Myself, Mark Homer, and Melanie Leonard from Streamline Legal, Mark from GNGF, and myself are the experts that are leading you through that. It's $27 a month right now. There are currently 9 seats available at that price. Before the price goes up, make sure that you do it today. Don't wait. profitwithlaw.com/incubator. I'm going to go over to Margaret. Actually, let me just give you permission to become turn your video on. And Margaret, I'm going to allow you to take it away. Melissa, I'm going to send you back to the attendee list.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm an attorney here in the Bahamas. My practice is predominantly litigation. And right now, the courts are basically closed. They're doing urgent applications, but I don't think there are too many of those right now. So my concern is my earning capacity really is put on hold until all of this is over. There are a number of existing matters that I'm continuing to do work for, but already I've noticed that clients have stopped paying their invoices quite as promptly as they used to. So my concern is whether this is a time at which I should be looking to maybe pivot to a different practice area, obviously something like estate planning, which I've done a little of in the past, but it hasn't been my main focus. So I'm just interested if you think this is something that I should be looking at doing now, bearing in mind that eventually I will return to the civil litigation.
Margaret, I want to say this is just a perfect time to pivot, and you may or may not return to the civil litigation. Sure, if you love it, then you might, but you may find that you pivot towards something that you actually love even more. So I guess my curiosity for you is, what are you seeing as the downside to pivoting?
Well, I've been doing some work with Moshe, and he's been telling me that I need to focus on one practice area. Typically, lawyers here tend to have several practice areas. We have a smaller market, and you tend to do a little bit of everything. So I've been trying more and more to focus now on civil litigation.
I see.
Just the bulk of my income.
That makes sense. So Moshe is right. We strongly recommend that people do not be a door lawyer, which is take whatever walks in the door, because we've found that that is the fastest path to not having a law practice that can make great money and serve clients in a really great way. So he's right. And so right now, with civil litigation not being able to pay the bills, it might make sense for you to try a practice area that you could, so we're not saying take whatever walks in the door. Pick one other one, whether it is estate planning, whether it is bankruptcy. Bankruptcies, I think, I'm seeing people ask about bankruptcy right now. It's probably going to be a good practice area. Think about one other practice area that you could pivot towards right now that you already do know something about, that would be fairly easy to learn and start offering services in to people who actually need those services. And then don't abandon your civil litigation practice. Keep doing that and start to try to serve, like, just to have a sense, Margaret, how much money do you need to make a month in your law practice?
About 10,000.
Okay.
Minimum. Yeah.
So 10,000 a month will cover your personal expenses and your business expenses?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the cost to someone if they die without having done legal planning? I don't know what happens in the Bahamas if somebody becomes incapacitated or dies without legal planning, but what's the general cost to somebody's family if they die or become incapacitated without legal planning?
If they become incapacitated, that will involve a court application, obviously.
Yeah.
Depending on whether it's a contested application or not, it can run them $6,000 perhaps, or upwards of that, if they have a family member who's fighting with them for control.
So 6,000 is the minimum?
Yeah.
Okay, and on death?
On death, we tend to charge fees based on the value of the estate.
Yeah.
So really it depends on what the size of the estate is.
Yeah. So would it save people money if they spent $3,000 on an estate plan with you to keep their family from having to spend a minimum of $6,000 or even more than that if they became incapacitated, or if they died, their family having to go through the court process?
Yes, I'm sure it would.
Could you serve 4 clients next month at $3,000 each?
It would take some educating of the market, because estate planning isn't something that people here typically think a lot about until they're, in their 70s.
Yeah. Are you willing to educate the market, all of whom are probably thinking about their own potential death or incapacity right now?
Sure I am.
Great. If you're willing to educate the market and you think that there's 4 people in your community who would happily pay $3,000 to work with you as their counselor to keep their family out of court and out of conflict, we can help you get to those 4 people in the next 30 to 60 days. That's how we do it.
Okay.
That's how you could pivot. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for walking through that with me.
And may I just add something to it? Ali made an excellent point, right, about educating your client. It's a new market for you. So again, personal experience, because everything is, we learn from our personal experiences and sharing them. So 2017 in October, that's when I opened the doors to my practice. I started as a regular accounting tax firm, trying to get the clients and trying to get them in. And then we kind of decided, I decided that This is going to be a tax planning firm with much less clients, more value, right? So when I got on my probably first or second strategy session of tax planning consulting, I think which was June of 2018 probably, with a family attorney from upstate New York here. I speak to her, she loves what I said over the phone. She's like, this sounds great. Does seem like I want to work with you. I mean, if I'm going to save so much money with planning. And then she says, great, I have to go. Could you please send me your resume? I was like, my resume? I'm in business for myself. What resume? I'm confused. So I'm like, I'm sure it's not that, it's probably not me. I don't know. So I decided, I made this conclusion that probably, and that was actually the case, not every attorney, right? A lot of business owners, but I was focusing on attorneys, is educated enough about what is tax planning. They just know that there is an accountant, he has to do your taxes, you give all the information, and we hope that our accountant is saving his money. So I did everything I could in my power, tried to educate and do a lot of content online just about tax planning. What is tax planning? What are the opportunities? What are, savings with it? What could be achieved? How you could be better off with your family, and just educating and educating and educating. I have not had anybody ask me for my resume since then. And most of the time when people get on a strategy session with me, they already know exactly what our firm is about and what type of service we provide. And most importantly, they know what is tax planning, so we don't spend half of the call trying to educate them about what tax planning, where they have their reservations. So educating your niche or that area of expertise is completely important, and I think you can go to a lot of places by just educating them what avenues could be available for them. Just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, Margaret, I wanted to say, just to get you thinking a little bit differently about this, as lawyers, we tend to think we can just jump to another practice area whenever we need to diversify our income sources. And I would note that's not what Allie said. She was saying, if you're going to make this jump, there's a huge opportunity cost to figuring out how to do stuff. So you need help to make that jump. Another way to think about it would be, if you're going to diversify your income sources, people not being able to go to court to resolve their disputes is not a demand problem, that's a supply problem, right? We don't have that method that somebody thinks of in order to resolve these disputes. What I mean to say is, if you can figure out how to productize in other ways what you do, you cannot currently sell court services. That's not a thing that you can do. But changing practice areas is not the only way to diversify your income streams. There are different ways to productize services that could still have value to people. So you don't necessarily have to switch practice areas to diversify.
Well, maybe I'm not creative enough, but I seem to be struggling to come up with ideas for how I can productivize the litigation.
Yeah, that's a whole discipline. There are, I know Gabriel Tenenbaum at Suffolk is writing a book about it. There's a guy in the UK I can't think of right now. But if you do a search on productizing, like your spell check will tell you this is not a word. But if you look up just productizing services, there's a lot of research about how you do that, about how you bundle things. It uses a lot of design thinking principles. I could explode Post-it notes on you right now, but I'm not going to. But if you look that up, it's a lot of help.
I think that would be a mistake right now, honestly. I don't think you can afford to learn how to productize things. This is I created New Law Business Model to give lawyers the tools that they would not be able to create themselves. It just so happens that, now it's so needed more than ever. But it took me years and hundreds of thousands of dollars to productize my knowledge. So expecting that a lawyer is going to be able to productize their knowledge in the next 2 weeks seems somewhat unreasonable. And some of you can, some of you absolutely can, if you're like Boris, you're going to be able to, right? Boris, you seem to be able to make a pivot really quickly and create a product of something, but, don't kill yourselves trying to reinvent the wheel. If you want to go do bankruptcy, pivot to that, learn from somebody who's got all the systems for bankruptcy already and can just plug and play it into your practice. Same with estate planning. We've got those. If there's other practice areas that are great right now, find out who's got the system and plug into the system that's already been created for you.
Yeah, Allie, to your point, that's true. When we pivoted the business overnight 2 weeks ago, we actually had support and returned to resources that can help us do that. Of course, that involved a lot of hours and probably 3 a.m. nights over the weekend to make that happen. But we definitely turned to a source where we can get the support, so we can put all the systems and process for employees and for ourselves to be able to kickstart it off right away, right after the weekend. So yes, You don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's somebody invented it for you. That is how I grew my practice from nothing to exponentially. It's all because we have not been reinventing anything. We've been just taking what's out there and making it just better.
And I'm going to jump in here. And Margaret, I happen to know your situation personally. So what Mike was sharing with productizing, you might want to think about whether or not you're able to do mediation work right now. Figure out how to do that virtually with Zoom. To do those, to be able to meet with people from where you are, and to bring the two parties to the table, and you can resolve matters outside of the court through mediation. So if everyone else is hiding behind this thing of the courts are closed, nobody's open for business, this might be a prime opportunity for you to get more of that litigation work that you then channel to mediation and say, look, you guys want to resolve this today. We got to get both parties talking. Let's have this conversation and just walk them through that mediation process. I understand that if it ends up becoming litigation, that excludes you from representing either of them, but you can potentially continue to work in mediation. So that's one thing that I just want to put out there on the table for you. The other is that I'm a big proponent of one practice area. Until you get that practice area to be completely running as a well-oiled machine, don't add another. However, when you choose that practice area, there has to be, as Mike said, there has to be supply, right? If there's nobody who wants to spend that money in that practice area, then it's a poor choice of practice area. So unfortunately, if there is no business in litigation, then you may be forced to pivot if you want to still bring money in. And I just wouldn't become a generalist through this. I would very carefully look for opportunities in the market and say, I'm going to select this for this reason, and this is what I'm going to go after. Allie's point is really good. Estate planning is a good thing. I don't know what it's going to look like to teach your marketplace and to educate your people, but I'm sure that there are Facebook groups of Bahamians that are talking about what's going on in the country and how do we deal with things. And you can go in there and you can start giving value add in that Facebook group and just have people start to notice who you are. Now you create a webinar with an information session that drives them to this need of needing to deal with this today. And then at the end of the webinar, you drive them to a consultation with you on the phone, and you should be able to get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people on the phone where you can then turn and close them into a client. So whether it's estate planning or not, I don't know, but you have to figure that out. But I would first look at your area of expertise and see, is there anything else in my area of expertise that I can do today to generate revenue? And also with your litigation cases, if there's work to be done, it's just the courts are closed, but you actually have work to do to prepare for that, I would turn around to the clients and say, look, you're slow paying your invoices. There's work to be done. This is not a time to take it easy and assume that we're just going to resume when things come back. You can have a discussion with them to say, look, pay your invoice so that we can be ready. When the courts reopen, we want to be first in line to get your matter resolved. So there's another opportunity there to continue your litigation work if you do have work to prepare for court, even though you can't go to court. So those are my thoughts on your situation. Do you have any follow-up questions for us?
No. I think you've given me quite a few ideas to pursue. Yes, I do have litigation work to do. I think my concern was really that I don't know if this is work that's going to be paid for, because a lot of these people have fallen into all of the problems that everyone else is having.
Yeah, so I would just go back to them and say, look, we understand the current situation and we understand that cash is tight for everybody. It is for us as well. We want to make sure that we're going to be paid for the work that we're doing. So I need you to pay a retainer of X amount in order for us to continue the work that we're doing. There's nothing wrong with asking for that money up front, making sure that you have it there to work off of before continuing the work. You definitely should not be doing work that you think you might not get paid for.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, so we do have one more question. I normally shut this down by a quarter after, but I want to get to this. I'm not even sure if it's a question. So what the person wrote is, since the date for reopening for standard services to be determined, the business does not want to get into more debt if it is not necessary. As it is, the owner has not taken home a paycheck during the entirety of having the office because it all goes to paying the employees, maintaining the practice, paying the mortgage, equipment loans, etc. There's no question there, so I'm going to assume that
Moshe, that actually, I answered that. I'm sorry. That came from a question that somebody anonymous was asking about a dental office who must be a client of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
They said for a small dental office that had to close, what loans would you advise them to apply for? Dental offices are kind of like law offices, except they have to make much bigger investments in their equipment. They said that 3 to 5 employees cannot be paid without doing work as there's no income being made. And I asked, and then the business does not want to take on additional loans unless they can be forgiven. They asked what we would advise.
Mm-hmm.
I said I'd get curious on why they won't take more loans unless they can be forgiven. Will they make back the money on the loans at low interest once they are back in business?
Right.
And so that was the response, since the date for reopening is, yeah.
So what I'd like to do is turn this question around and just assume that it's a law office that's having this problem,
Right.
and just answer that question for our attendees, because there's got to be somebody who's here that says, hey, I don't want to borrow money. What do I do? Right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I want Boris to talk about the SBA options that are on the table, where although you may not want to borrow money, it may be worthwhile to look at those because the loans are so cheap and there's the ability to get some of it as a grant. It might be worthwhile to consider doing that. The other thing that I would like the panelists that are remaining to think about and talk about is, okay, so let's assume that the SBA stuff is off the table. Let's assume that they can't borrow money, they won't borrow money. What's our recommendation for somebody who's very quickly running out of cash and credit's off the table?
Okay, so I guess I'll take it from here. So it's really, I would say also, it's a lack of education, right? Just like we mentioned earlier, your clients are also probably losing business. So it's in your best interest to make sure that doors keep open. So you're educating them about all these things that are available. So 2 types of loans. The clients doesn't want to take out a loan, but should they? They absolutely should. Why? There's 2 types of loans. There's a disaster loan and there's a regular SBA loan, right? So the disaster relief loan is available to everybody. Okay, you apply for it to cover all the operations that were affected because of the COVID-19. That loan is at 3.75% over the term of 30 years. The first payment doesn't have to be paid until 12 months later. Okay, and that loan has no forgivable clause in it. Okay, it's the money that you can be qualified for, but then later on you can say, you know what, I don't want it, or you can prepay it and not incur any penalty. The second type of a loan is something that's done through the banks. It's under the CARES Act Paychecks Protection Program. What that means is that the government says, hey, why don't you apply for the loan? Once you get the loan, there's a certain calculation of how much you can get. We're not going to get into details, but once you get that loan and you cover your payroll expenses for the next 8 weeks after you get the loan, including your mortgage interest on the property where that your practice leases, or if you rent that place, and also utilities, that portion will then be forgivable. Then you have to reapply back to be forgiven. So yes, you are applying for the loan, but essentially you could turn it into a grant if you're doing all the proper paperwork and you're working with the professional to kind of help you navigate through it. Because 30, 40, 50, or even $100,000 that you received as a loan could all turn into a forgivable loan if you follow through with this. So really, they don't want to take out a loan. To me, it seems like they just maybe don't have enough information about what types of loans are there and how they can help them. Again, the first one is a disaster loan, has to be paid back. The second one is a 7A SBA loan done through the bank, also has to be paid back, but you can qualify for forgiveness of the portion or entire piece of the loan. And these are the types of things that you can educate your clients about. So they'll be like, all right, maybe I can continue, with my business, dental practice. They can't afford payroll right now, but once they get that loan, they'll open their doors, all of that stuff, all these expenses they're incurring for the employees, they're basically using loan money to pay employees, and that loan doesn't have to be repaid back. So these are the things just to think about. I would also recommend putting something together for all of your clients, no matter what area of law you specialize in. If you're working specifically with business owners, or you have business owners that are your clients, educate them so they know that they can continue their operations, and then also keep you on the retainer on top of that.
Thank you, Boris. I have one follow-up question for you before I turn it over to the rest of the panelists. There is a little bit of confusion about whether you can apply for both the EIDL, the disaster loan, as well as the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program, or the SBA 7A loan. My understanding is you can apply for both. You just can't use the proceeds of both for the same purpose. Is that correct? And because there's a lot of people who are hearing that they can only do one or the other, so they're not applying for the disaster loan because they think the PPP is better, and the PPP there's no way to apply for yet.
Right. Great question. So I can tell you that I'm a member of many accounting communities and experts that were kind of looking into this. We have the bill in front of us, right? Based on how we understand the law, you can, even if there were 10 loans available, just go ahead and apply for all 10 of them. You're not obligated to take them. Just see what you get approved for, right? That's the first step. The second step, can you apply for both and get both? The answer is yes, Moshe. And just like you said, as long as you don't double dip, right? As long as you don't use the disaster relief loans for the payroll, because you're going to use the other loan for that so you can get that forgiven to you, okay? But before you start getting those loans, you also want to talk to your accountant or hire a professional who is familiar with the CARES Act, because you can also receive a lot of tax credits in your next payroll for having people on payroll and paying for their sick leave and medical leave because the government was shut down, and you continued paying their salary while they were sitting at home instead of using the loan money to be forgiven. That all of that could just be a credit on your taxes, right? But that's a side note on that. But to answer your question again, you can apply for both loans, don't double dip, and see what you get approved for.
Awesome, great information. So I'm just going to turn it over. We have Erik and Ali still with us to just talk about what if somebody just runs out of cash. What do they do?
So I'll chime in. I think this is the terrible choice that so many businesses are having to make, which is business isn't there, I can't afford my payroll. And the way I think about it is the business needs to survive this crisis, or you're not doing any employees any service, and yourself. And I think what the government has put in place with these loans that Moshe is talking about is basically giving you the tools to buy 8 weeks with the payroll protection plan. And then they also have the additional money for unemployment so that people can maintain some semblance of where they were before. So I really think about it as you maximize that. So for sure, do all of that. And then we'll see where we are in sort of 8 weeks, because you'll have that to sort of get you through that time. But then, I think taking on a loan for business that isn't there to keep employees who don't have business because we're still in this lockdown doesn't make sense. And it could lead you down the track of not having a firm at the end, which then gets all the employees out on the street. So it's a super tough choice, but I think that's my framework of thinking about it, is use all that stuff that the tools provided to try to get us through, into the summer, see where we are. But then, if we're still in that, anyways, and then it's sort of a hypothetical question, because in 8 weeks, they may have passed 2 more bills that then enable a longer runway. So I think doing a loan now that is not forgivable, anyways, I think if it's the business isn't there, I would not do that.
Ali, I don't know if you want to add anything.
I do. Yeah. As advisors, we need to help our clients make decisions as business owners. And as a business owner, if you believe in the service that you have to offer, you do everything that you can to stay in business and serve, including taking on debt with the risk of bankruptcy. That's what makes you a business owner in my book. If you're not a business owner, then go get a job for somebody else and don't worry about taking on debt to stay in business. Don't worry about learning how to sell your services. Don't worry about learning how to market your services. It's going to be very difficult in a going forward reality, I think, to be in that position. I think it's incredibly terrifying to be an employee right now. And so to me, yes, it's scary to take on debt. Of course it is. I remember the first time that I had signed my name to that paper, and the bank was asking me, okay, how much do you want to take? And I was like, well, what's the smallest I could take? And it was like $25,000. So I'm like, okay, now I realize I should be asking, what's the most I can get access to? That's always now the question. What's the most I can get access to? That is what makes you a business owner. And if you're not going to be in that mindset, And look, I'm not saying it's not going to be terrifying. It was terrifying for me the first time I did it. And I did file bankruptcy. And I went through that. And now I'm on the other side of it 10 years later. And, I've got a 720 credit score and taken on more debt because I believe in what I have to offer. And so for the dentist, for the law practice owner, like if you believe that people are going to need your services again later, this is the time to get access to as much credit as you can. Because do you remember when interest rates were like 17%? People couldn't borrow money? 25%? I don't know. I remember that from when I was a teenager. I don't know why I remember that, but like.
It's still that if you have a credit card.
Right. That's true. That's true. And as long as you have a great service to offer, be willing to go all in. I mean, really, what do you have to lose? We're all going to die anyway.
Yeah, so I kind of echo the both what Erik is saying and what Ali is saying. I think that I don't think that it makes sense to go into debt and borrow money to keep something that is dying alive if it's going to die anyway, right? So if your assessment is there's no way to survive this and it's just a matter of buying some time, it doesn't make sense to borrow for that. But if you're saving something that's palpable, the perfect example for you, I'm a paramedic. So we get taught how to deal with a mass casualty incident. And we have tags that we use, and the tags have colors. There's green, yellow, red, and black. And when you first get on scene, what you need to do is you need to go to every patient and make a very rapid assessment. Within 30 to 60 seconds, you have to determine what is their status. Are they green? Are they yellow, red, or black? Black is dead. Red is critical, but savable. Yellow is injured, needs attention, is not going to be able to get up and walk away on their own. And green is basically everyone who can get up and walk away. So the first thing you do is, hey, everybody who's able to walk, go over here, boom, green tags. Then the next thing that you do is you walk through and you do your assessment, and somebody who has a serious injury that normally would be able to be saved, but because of the resources available and because of the situation will not be able to be saved, they unfortunately get a black tag. We're not expending any resources on trying to save them because of where it happened and what resources are available. And that's the situation that we're in today. Another example is somebody is bleeding profusely out of their arm. If we can't stop the bleeding, we put a tourniquet on and we tie the tourniquet closed, even though we know that that's likely going to cause them to lose the arm because it's going to save the life. So those are perfect examples of where you need to look at your firm and you need to say, look, we're bleeding. We need to figure out which are the parts that we need to save that's going to keep this business alive, even if it means we're going to lose an integral part of it. It might cost me axing an employee, wrong word. It might cost me letting an employee go because that will allow me to keep the firm alive, even though they're a great employee, even though that, they're basically what I have or what makes the firm a firm. But at the same time, if they're the thing that's important and the office rent is not, you stop paying the office rent, keep paying the employee. So you have to make that assessment and figure out what is the core of my business that's going to keep this business alive, and let some of the limbs die. We can manage without that. We'll go to rehab, we'll figure it out. So I think these are perfect examples of how you can make these decisions, really, really tough decisions, but you have to make them quickly. Remember, the time is everything here. The more time that goes by, the more money you're bleeding, the faster it is that you're going to get to the end and be out of money. And you just went without money, the firm is done, right? So those are my thoughts. Any last thoughts from you guys, or if not, we'll just we'll end it here. We'll let it go.
No, I'm good. This was great.
Awesome. Well, the panelists have been falling off, so have the attendees, but for those of you that stuck it out to the end, an hour and a half of amazing, amazing stuff and really good conversation around what to do, how to stay alive, how to deal with the current situation from a cash flow perspective. If you really enjoyed this, make sure to join us for the last 3 of these live stream events that we're doing tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. And you can register for those at profitwithlaw.com/COVID. If you're here on the Zoom call, you're already registered. Do not worry. profitwithlaw.com/COVID. And Boris, Erik, thank you so much for being the last men standing. And I really appreciate your input. This was a really great conversation, and I enjoyed the topic, and I appreciate you being here.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Have you been enjoying the show? We sure hope so. To make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player app. Next week, we will be back with more valuable resources and ideas on how to break the mold and take your law firm to the next level.